Welcome to Dirt Diaries, the podcast where the women of agriculture get real. From muddy boots to boardrooms, we're digging into the unfiltered stories of the FarmHers, ranchers, and every her shaping the future of ag. This isn't just shop talk, it's real talk. We're covering career paths, big wins, hard lessons, and everything in between. So whether you live it every day or you're just ag curious, pop in your earbuds and get ready. These are the raw, inspiring, and wildly relatable conversations you won't hear anywhere else. Let's dig in. Hey everyone, welcome back to Dirt Diaries. Today's guest is someone who has dedicated her voice and her heart to celebrating women in agriculture. Katelyn Duban is a first-generation grain farmer in southern Alberta, Canada, and the host of the Rural Woman podcast. After marrying into her husband's multi-generational farm in 2016, Katelyn traded city life for rural life, learning how to drive tractors, run equipment, and fall in love with the land. In 2019, she launched the Rural Woman podcast, and since then, she's shared hundreds of conversations with farmers, ranchers, homesteaders, and ag professionals, earning over 500,000 downloads and building a global community of women who feel a little less alone because of her work. In this episode, we talk about her journey from a desk job to farm life and why storytelling is such a powerful tool for connection in the industry. Katelyn's authenticity, warmth, and commitment to lifting others up make her someone you can't help but root for. So let's do it. Let's get dirty with Katelyn. Well, another episode of Dirt Diaries, and no one other than Katelyn is joining me now. Thank you so much. I know you are a busy person, so we really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to come on here and kind of tell our listeners all about yourself and how your involvement has grown and what you do in the ag industry. So I'm just going to kick it on over to you, and we're going to dig into who you are and everything that you do. So go ahead, take it away.
Well, Kirby, thank you so much for having me here. It's always a little bit intimidating for me to be on the other side of the microphone as a podcaster myself, and to share who I am with listeners. But the quick and dirty of it is my name is Katelyn Duban, and I am a first generation grain farmer here in southern Alberta, Canada. If you cannot tell by my accent, I am a first generation farmer, as I did not grow up in the agriculture industry. I grew up adjacent in a town very closely surrounded by agriculture. But my first dive into agriculture was meeting my husband, who is a multi-generational farmer. He is the third generation grain farmer to grow on our land here. But yeah, that was kind of my forte into agriculture and really even knowing a farmer. I always say it was my real job. I had a real job. I had a career off of the farm. That was always my intention, to stay off of the farm and simply just live here. And that lasted about 9 months into our marriage before I learned that driving a tractor and being outside was way more fun than sitting at my desk in an office. So I quit my job, not really knowing what was going to be in store for me, but I wanted to fully immerse myself into agriculture and on our farm here. So I quit my job and learned how to drive a tractor, and they say the rest is history.
I love that. And I think it's so cool. We always talk about this when people are like, and I know you weren't saying this, but some people are like, wow, I'm first generation. I'm new to the industry. I didn't grow up in this. And I think that is so amazing, because I think you come in with just such a different and fresh perspective, and you bring such a light and like a breath fresh of air to our industry, and a new voice, and a sense of, hey, you're not just trying to do things the way they've been done before, or you don't have all these stories, right, from the ups and downs and how volatile this industry can be, and taxing and all the other things. So just really, really appreciate that. Holly's giving me a timeout sign real quick. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Katelyn. You're like the video, like it's super pixelated and blurry. I think sometimes that can happen with them. Would you mind like signing out of it and signing back in?
Sure, I can do that. I also use Riverside, and I'll just say when I am recording, like you yourself are super pixelated. I can't really see you clearly either. But when it
Oh, really?
uploads on the
But
other
when it
side,
uploads, it's
it'll be
Oh,
clear.
okay.
Yeah.
I hadn't seen it like
Oh,
that.
yeah.
Okay.
That's why
As
I
long
was
as
like
you guys are
letting,
cool
yeah.
with it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, no,
Welcome
you're
to
good. You're
rural
good.
internet.
Yes, I know. Yeah. So when it's happened before. So, well, good. So
Whew.
we'll just pick up right back there. But yeah. So I just think it's super cool that you are a first generation and then you married this multi-generational farmer. Go into that a little bit more and kind of what that's been like for you, stepping into this world and just, I don't know, your take on it all.
Sure. I love that you said that. And, it sometimes once you're so many years in, it's nice to reflect back on those
Mm-hmm.
beginning times and really that scariness of not really knowing what's going on in agriculture and really immersing yourself into it. And I think there's just so many different ways that folks come into this industry. And a lot of it is through marriage, whether on both sides, whether you are marrying a farmer or a rancher, or if it is a man or a woman or whatever it is, like the partnerships in agriculture are so diverse, but coming in, really not knowing essentially how things were done and where my food came from. I felt a little embarrassed, to be honest, because I grew up in a town that is, a lot of industry around here is agriculture. I knew there were fields around, and I knew in July that the yellow canola flowers would come out and it looked really pretty while you were driving on the highway. I know there's an area uh, close to us, they call it Feedlot Alley. I knew when the wind blew a certain way, it smelled like Feedlot Alley, right? But not really
Yeah.
knowing the intricacies of what this industry really fully was. And at the age that I was, I thought like I should know these things. But the more that I did learn and thought about it, it was like, well, how would I know these things unless I knew a farmer to ask these questions, or if I was curious enough to go
Mhm.
online and look, I wouldn't really know. So I really came into this industry with curiosity and wanting to learn why we did things the way that we did. And for us ourselves, we've been a certified organic operation since 2018. So it hasn't always been that way here, but this has been something that my husband has transitioned the family farm to. And we're very proud of that. Our neighbors don't do it the way that we do. And I want to know, why do you do it that way? And they want to know, why are we doing it this way? So that's kind of the hat that I wore, was the curiosity hat. And I think as a first generation farmer, or advice for people coming into the industry, come in with that curiosity versus the judgment of thinking like, well, I saw a news article that one time, or, I just look at it as there's different ways of growing food. Like there's no one way of doing it. So just come in with that curiosity. And I think that was the biggest caveat for me, and the biggest benefit that I had was coming in with that curiosity and wanting to learn.
Well, and where you are now, you are such a voice for agriculture. And so I'd like for you to speak about that a little bit more. And what was like the spark that you saw in you and in the industry where you're like, there's a need for this, there's a place, I'm going to, create this podcast, I'm going to create this platform for people to really talk about this lifestyle and what they do and how they do it, for others to understand.
Yeah. So if you would have asked me however many years ago if this is what I would be doing with myself on a Wednesday afternoon, I would have probably called you crazy. I I didn't grow up, doing any media training or any type of broadcast journalism or anything. Again, it just came back to the curiosity. And for myself, coming into the agriculture industry, not really knowing anybody in my area and not knowing farmers besides my husband and our relatives and our close neighbors, I didn't really have anyone to turn to for questions or to say, like,
Yeah.
is this a normal struggle to be going through? I came from my life in the city and I was plopped down onto a farm and I didn't know what I was supposed to be doing. I love to share the story that at my old job on my lunch breaks, I used to Google, like, what do women on farms do? Because I had
Wait, I
no
love
idea.
that.
I had absolutely no idea what I was supposed to be doing, because I looked to the stories that my husband would share and the stories that I would learn from his baba, his Ukrainian grandmother, who's still with us today. She's 98
Oh.
years old and just a spitfire of a rural woman. I looked at what she did on our farm versus what my mother-in-law did on the farm. And they were complete polar opposites. So I knew there was wiggle room in there of like, what could you be doing? So I actually turned to Instagram. And back in 2016, 2017, just to see if there was anybody sharing their stories. And lo and behold, there was. And I, started to share my story on the farm and to show what I was doing, more or less to my friends, to be like, can you actually believe that this is my life and this is what I'm doing? But it was also a place to build community and to find friends in this industry. Farmers and ranchers are few and far between in the world that we live in. And when the internet can bring us closer, it makes it feel a little bit less isolating.
I was just going to say, it's such an isolated occupation.
Yeah, absolutely. And for myself, learning from these incredible women of what they were doing on their respected farms and ranches, and no two stories were the same. Those long days in the tractor when I would be out there. I love listening to podcasts. I love learning through podcasts. Podcasts are where I get my information.
Yeah.
So I would listen to podcasts, and truly, back in 2018, I was looking for a podcast that really highlighted the stories of women in agriculture, and there really wasn't any. And my millennial entrepreneurial spirit self was like, well, if there isn't one, then why can't I do it?
Yeah.
And I remember coming in from the field one day, and I told Justin, my husband, I said, I had this crazy idea while I was mowing our cover crop. I said to him, I think I really want to start a podcast and just highlight and share the stories of women in agriculture and share the stories of people that I'm meeting through Instagram and that kind of thing. And he looked at me and he said, yeah, that does sound crazy. But I got to work and I Googled, how do you start a podcast? And in March of 2019, I launched the Rural Woman Podcast. And it is, we're going 6.5 years now of being on air and sharing the incredible stories of women in agriculture from all over the world, from all walks of life, doing incredible things in their industry, and really taking the time to celebrate those voices. Often even to this day, women in agriculture specifically are so humble of being like, well, this is just what we do because that's what needed to be done.
Yep.
And for an outsider looking in, I am absolutely amazed by what these women are doing. Not only are they mothers, not only are they wives, not only are they in business partnerships, but they are thriving. They are looking at things differently than their male counterparts are. The way that our brains work, 99% of the time, I'm going to say, like, we are built for this. We are built for looking at new and initiatives and looking at different ways of doing things, and really bringing the heart back into farming. I think women hold the heart in farming. So yeah, it's been a wild ride. The podcast started with me sitting in my office, likely in my pajamas, Googling how do you start a podcast, teaching myself how to edit, do all of the things. And now I have a great team behind me, and we really get to share and celebrate these incredible stories. So yeah, it's been a wild ride.
I mean, how fun is it? I obviously can share sentiments with you on this, sharing people's stories. It's so incredible to be able to get to know someone, but also for other people to get to know them through you asking them questions and hearing their story. You can't compare it to anything.
No, the vulnerability that people have in sharing their stories, it is truly something that I treasure and I cherish. The women that I've been able to meet through the podcast, I have that connection with them. I know their stories, and to know somebody's story is to really hold a piece of them. So it's something that I really cherish, and it's something that I really treasure. And it's honestly getting to go to work in the day and sitting down at my podcast desk. It doesn't feel like work at all.
I was going to say, in the many years you've been doing this, though, has there ever been a day where you're like, you know what, I just don't know if I have it in me anymore to keep doing this?
Yes, I have.
Yeah.
Honestly, it happens quite often. And it's not due to anything to do with the women's stories, because that's what keeps bringing me back. I
Yeah.
hear a story and I'm like, I got to share that. Or something that somebody says just really fires me up. I'm like, yes, we can do this. But, there's obstacles in our industry, specifically for women, and
Mm-hmm.
the importance of our stories, and really, uh, sometimes the pushback that I've gotten from the industry of specifically unapologetically only sharing women's stories. And those are
I
the
understand
days,
that.
yeah, those are the days that yeah, it hurts your feelings, but I gotta say, like, it really fires me up to get back to work the next day from some of that pushback. But yeah, no, there's definitely days where it's harder than others, and specifically, around farming season. I myself, we have episodes that come out every Friday, and as soon as I get off the combine at harvest, that is my recording season, and I have between harvest and seeding to get my 52 episodes done, on
Wow.
top of a public speaking career that's come out of this. So traveling around, and being able to speak to audiences in person as well. So it's a lot, and it can be pretty draining. And it's, like I told you, I was an introvert. I was like, I'm gonna talk in my microphone in my house, in my office, and but it fires me up. But yeah, it definitely, when you are holding people's vulnerabilities, it can be a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, most definitely. I think so. Off of what you said, though, just about only speaking to women, I tried to explain this so many times, whether I've done a panel or been speaking somewhere or been interviewed by somebody doing, just talking about FarmHer, RanchHer, um, and anything her that we do. And I say, well, it's so funny because I grew up in a farming family and multi-generational on both sides. And I obviously took a different career path and it's connected me obviously back to ag, but it's so interesting. There's so many men and I'm surrounded by them, and you ask them, how's everything going? How's the crop this year? They're like, good. And okay, well, man, I know this was going on with the commodity prices. Are we worried about tariffs or, things like that? They come and they go, we'll just see what happens. They don't really dive into the stories the way females do. And that's not to take away anything from men, because some men are great storytellers, not all of them. But women are more apt to tell you the truth of what's really going on, the highs, the lows, the ins, the outs. And I think for our industry, that's so needed, because you would know this as yourself. I mean, being married to a farmer is not easy.
right. Yeah, I always say, when you get to wake up next to your boss each and every day, like, have those business meetings at the kitchen table and have family involved in that. Like, it's a lot of different complexities. And that was one thing that I, I truly appreciate. And I know for myself, would have wanted more when I got into this industry, to really understand that part of how close you are to where you work, and you don't get
Oof.
to escape. So that was something. And that's what I learned from women sharing their stories, specifically women of the older generation, those city girls that married the farm boy and moved onto the farm back in, the 70s and 80s. I From what we have now, and for the information that we can gather from people's stories, has been super helpful for me. So I get to be a part in sharing that, in that generational knowledge transfer, whether it's from the current generation who are running the farm to, my Baba's generation. I've interviewed women who have been all ages from all over the place, sharing their knowledge and wisdom. And I think the thing that just surprises me the most is when women just think that what the knowledge they have and the stories they have aren't that interesting, or
Mm.
don't need to be shared. And then after they've done it, to receive the feedback of, that's what I needed to hear today. That's what I needed to get me through calving season. That's what I needed to get me through getting these kids on the bus, like all of these things, right?
Yeah.
Like, our stories hold such power and meaning. And, when we're talking about commodity prices or tariffs or whatever, like a lot of times folks are thinking like those are the important, that's the important information of agriculture that we need to be sharing. Yes. And we also need to be sharing the stories of how much moisture did we get back in 1998 that drove the drought and all of those things, right? Like there's so many different pieces to it. And that's what I just find is so interesting and fascinating about agriculture. I've said this a few times of if there was no farm left, if there was whatever happened, I don't think you could get me away from agriculture now. Like I'm so immersed into it. I find it so fascinating. It is just an industry that is like no other.
Yeah. Has there ever been a story that you've sat with someone and they've told you that you went to bed that night and it really weighed heavy on your heart and you just were like, wow, that's really impacted me and it stuck with you for these years?
There's too many to name, I'm
Yeah.
sure. But some of the biggest stories that I remember are from women who have had so much struggle and so many things put against them. And whether that is financial, whether that is whether it is gender bias or any of these things, and all of the stories where people persevered. I think the perseverance of women in agriculture needs to be studied because what we go through on an average everyday basis is a lot. And it can be a lot from each season to whether you're changing positions in your industry, whether what phase of life that you're in. There's just so many stories that I think about to this day. And, the women that I've met and kept in touch with all of these years, some of them aren't farming anymore. And I find those ones really fascinating of what made you choose to get out of farming? Was it financial? Was it marital? Was it family related? What is it, right? And how are you taking what you've learned in agriculture in the new industries that you're going into? And it's been fascinating to follow. And it's also really cool to see the innovation that these women have and how some of these women have essentially saved the family farm with bringing in these new ideas, whether that's, they're coming in through marriage or they're just the next generation. And they learned something on YouTube that they think they can bring to their operation, and the higher ups, whether that be mom and dad or whether that be your husband or whomever, buying into it and saying, well, we'll give it a try, and them just being absolutely blown away by, the numbers going up.
Yeah. Are there any topics, I think a part of farming and ranching right now that you think the agriculture industry isn't talking about or shedding enough light on that you feel like we should be?
I think in my mind, the topic of mental health and agriculture can never be talked about enough. When you work in the space and you are comfortable and you talk about it a lot, sometimes it can probably feel like that's all you're talking about. But there's a mental health epidemic in agriculture, and there has been for a really, really long time. And even in my relatively short amount of time in this industry, I have seen the conversations, I've seen the organizations come up, and we're trying to talk about it more. I myself have been very open throughout my entire journey of the mental health struggles that I faced when I came into this industry and how that's happened for me, what I did to get myself out of a funk. I've always been super open to having folks share their own stories on the podcast, women specifically, like talking about postpartum depression. That is something that if you live rurally, there are statistics to show that the rates of postpartum depression are much higher than those women who have that access to services that they need. So anything in the mental health sphere, I think cannot be talked about enough. And I'm so grateful for the folks who are sharing their own personal stories and are sharing their resources. And truly, talking about it on a platform such as a podcast or YouTube or wherever online is one thing, but truly going to your neighbor and saying, hey, let's have a cup of coffee and just talk. Those are the actions that are really helping folks too. And being like, how are you feeling? Like, what's your crops doing this year? What do you think of the cattle prices? Those kinds of things. Even just having somebody there that you're able to vent to, I think really helps. But truly, recognizing that there are professionals who are trained to help you through a mental health crisis and not being ashamed to use those resources, I think is super important too. So just normalizing talking about mental health, talking about the struggles that we have, like there's a lot of them sometimes. And having that voice of reason and somebody to talk to, or even just a neutral third party, I think is super helpful. So the more that we can talk about mental health, the better, I think.
Yeah, it's interesting too. As you know, farmers and ranchers asking for help is very, very hard for them. Have you heard or listened to a story from an older generation farmer rancher that's been on your podcast that's giving you some advice that you think is very valuable and crucial for the younger generation to hear or know?
I'm trying to. So I had an interview that I had last fall, and this woman's name was Bridget. And Bridget actually immigrated from Germany back in the 70s, 80s, to a hog farm in the Midwest. And she worked on farms in Germany. And when she went to university and came here for her studies, worked on this hog farm and came to the farmer with advice of how to run his hog farm. And it was received with a caveat. We will do this. If it works, then great. If not, you're fired, kind of thing. So she had a lot on the line. It turns out that it really worked well. And Bridget ended up immigrating to the US and was one of the largest hog seed producers in the Midwest throughout the 80s and into the 90s, and lost everything with market crashes that happened in the 90s and basically went down to nothing. But she pivoted and actually started working in the ag financial sector and had another 20-year career after that in helping farm families with succession planning and all of those things. And I think what Bridget taught me was that it's okay to pivot. Yeah. And especially in our industry where we think like, oh gosh, like I'm a multi-generational, let's say dairy farmer. My family has been milking cows for generations and generations, and this is just not working out for me. It's okay to pivot. Like we don't have to bury ourselves in the legacy piece. Just because this is how it was done doesn't mean that in the year 2025 or whenever, this is how it needs to be done now. We can do things differently and it can look different. And as long as it makes sense to you and your family, sometimes not extended family, but your immediate family, like if this is what's making sense for you, then it's okay to pivot and it's okay to do things differently.
Yeah, that's actually really great advice. Okay, we're going to switch things up a little bit. We like to play some games on Dirt Diaries. Obviously, we kind of already got to know you, but this one's called Breaking the Ice, so we can get to know you a little bit better in just different ways. What is your weirdest habit that you have?
Weirdest habit? Oh boy. I am really guilty of sometimes biting off more than I can chew. And when it comes to farming, as like an animal lover who grew up in the city, like I had a dog and a cat, but when I came out to a farm, I was like, I can literally have any animal that I want on a farm. So early on in my farming career, I went to an auction and I got some goats. And my weirdest habit is, now that I'm no longer in goat farming, or I had bottle calves, I still often will scroll and think like, oh, maybe I should bring that animal home and whatever else. And I'm like, no, stop doing that. It's a bad habit.
The bad habit of just bringing all these animals home. Wait,
Yes.
that's actually, some would say that's a good habit to have, you know?
It could be, but
Yeah.
if it has 4 legs, you got to feed it. And when
Yeah.
you get a cold winter in Canada, going out there feeding it is really not that great.
No, thank you. Guilty pleasure.
Guilty pleasure. I am a sucker for reality TV, and terrible reality TV. Any Housewives franchise, I've probably seen it.
Hey, I think that's great. Well, then off of that, if you could participate in one reality TV series, what would it be?
Oh gosh. In Canada, I know it's called something different, or there's a different show in the US, Farmer Wants a Wife.
Yeah.
Well, in Canada, they recently, within the last few years, it's called Farming for Love. Same premise. Girls trying to marry a farmer. I don't want to marry a farmer. I already found one. However, I said this out loud a while ago. I was like, if I could like host, or at least like guest spot on that as like a mentor for some of these city girls marrying a farmer, I think we would have a better success rate for marriages afterwards. So,
hey, I think we heard it here, you guys, everybody.
I'm putting it out there.
I think, like, put it out there.
Yeah.
I like that. Something you wish you were better at.
Something I wish I was better at. I think, oh boy. How deep are we going to go here?
As deep as you want to go. You can dig in real deep here on Dirt Diaries.
I wish I was better at turning around a double implement and not cutting off before I hit the GPS on. I think not only do I wish I was better at that, I think my husband would also wish I was better.
I feel like a lot of people wish they were better at that.
Yeah. But,
do you have,
at least I try.
Yeah, exactly. Do you have a hidden talent?
I'm a good cook.
Ooh, that's a good hidden talent.
I guess that's a good hidden talent. It's not super hidden, because on top of being out in the field, I have to jump out of the field to come feed the rest of the crew. So I think my hidden talent would be feeding an army of harvest crew on top of driving the combine. That would be my hidden talent.
Your least and your most favorite part of the day?
My least favorite part of the day is shutting my brain off to fall asleep. That seems to take a long time for me. My favorite part of the day is my first morning cup of coffee on the deck with my my dogs. I have 2 Bernese Mountain Dogs.
Ooh, love that.
Kevin and Carl. So
Kevin and Carl.
Yeah, I have coffee with them every morning and just have my slow morning cup of coffee. I think that's my favorite part of the day.
What's one thing people may be surprised to know about you?
Well, with kind of a public facing job for most of the time, people are surprised that I'm an introvert. They're also surprised that I have chosen to work out in the field. If I look at my life before this, I was scared to try a lot of things, and being able to put myself out there and try and operate equipment and that kind of thing, I think that was surprising for a lot of people. So yeah.
And if you could have a sandwich named after you, what would the sandwich be called?
Oh my gosh.
I know that's a real hard one.
That's a real hard one. Do you have an answer for that?
I don't. Jenna and Holly put these together, and we always laugh. Jenna really is the mastermind behind these questions. And I'm like, oh my gosh, thank God. Like, goodness, I'm asking them, because I don't think I can answer some of these.
That's a really hard one. The rural woman sandwich is what we'll call it.
Oh, good one.
Yeah.
If you could only watch one movie or read one book for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Oh, one movie. I'll get all sappy. Serendipity, probably. A good old rom-com. That would be probably number one. And book, I can't ever choose because I'm a big book lover. So.
Is there a really distinct moment of pride that you have?
Yes. Story I like to share, specifically for women who maybe are in agriculture or are egg curious and want to kind of dip their work boot into operating equipment. I was terrified to run the lawnmower when I moved here. I was convinced that I was going to be one of the lawnmower fatalities that unfortunately happened. I was going to lose a toe or something. So learning to drive the lawnmower was a big moment for me.
I would say so.
Yeah.
That's like impressive.
It led to, that was the first spring here. And then it led to later on in the year, it'd be harvest of 2017. My husband asked me on a Sunday morning if I wanted to go on the swather for the day with him. I was like, oh, yes. I thought it'd be so romantic. I would pack us a lunch. Like, it'd just be so cute. So we're going, and he asks me, do you want to try and drive it? And I said, sure. So I tried for a little while, and I'm going back and forth. I'm hitting the GPS, and we're going, and he asks me to pull over. And I thought, oh, this is where we get out. And he looks at things, and I go and look at things and don't know what I'm looking at. But he said, no, stay here. And I said to him, excuse me? He's like, I'm going to go do something in whatever field. And I was like, you're leaving me here to swath this field by myself. And
he's like, yeah, you got it. I just watched you.
Yeah. And he says, the thing that he always says to me whenever he leaves me, don't hit anything. And I think I swathed for about 12 hours that day, and I finished the field. And I stood out on the deck, and I looked at my almost straight rows going back and forth. And that was the day that I knew that I was going to leave my job and I was going to be a farmer, because that sensation that I felt that day, it was like, I watched that seed go into the ground. I helped pull out the pivots when they got stuck. I am now helping take that off of the field, and somebody's going to benefit from this crop. And it was just such a satisfying feeling. It just itched that part of my brain. So that's the day that I credit that I was going to be a farmer.
I like that. That's a neat moment. This one is called Wild Rose or Wild Ride. So I'll toss out a scenario to you, and you can label it as a wild rose moment, empowering, worth it, you name it, or it was wild ride. It was chaotic, hilarious, just plain wild.
Okay.
So launching your podcast solo.
Wild Rose.
Okay.
It was good. Yeah.
Editing your first episode.
Oh, not good. Not good at all. Wild ride. And I'm sorry for anyone who still goes back to listen to it.
You're like, and it's still there.
It's still there.
Recording during calving season.
That would be a wild ride. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Meeting a guest in real life for the first time.
Wild Rose, 100%. I am a hugger. And if I see you in real life, we're already best friends. So
you're like, it's already, yep. I love that.
Sealed.
Reading the reviews on the podcast platforms.
Wild Rose. I love the good, the bad, and everything in between. Anything that I can do to make the podcast better, great. But also to hear the kind words that people have to say for this crazy journey of mine it's what fills my cup.
I like that. This one is called Dear Future FarmHer. So just where you finish these sentences that I'm about to say, and you can finish them funny, heartfelt, however you want. But yeah, just finish the sentences. If I could tell one thing to the woman thinking of starting her own podcast, I'd say,
just do it. If it's on your heart and you have a story if you have information, if you have knowledge, you have all of those things and you are willing to share, your voice needs to be heard.
I like that. The rural life isn't always easy, but
it's worth it. The hard times make the good times even better. And not a lot of people get to live this life. There's a lot of people that would love to live this life, and having the privilege to live and grow on this land is not lost on me. So it's good stuff.
I hope every woman in ag knows
that their story is worthy of being told.
That's a good one. The story I'm still waiting to tell is...
the story that I am still waiting to tell is, I will say that coming into this industry and being part of a farm family can sometimes feel like you're out of place. So I'm still discovering where my place is, not only on our farm, but in the egg industry as a whole. So I don't think that story's over for me yet. And I'm still happy to share along the way, but I don't think there's a final destination for that story yet.
Yeah, that's cool. It's neat. You need to write a book.
Something like that.
Yeah. You're like, maybe. This is called FarmHer Fast 5. Just rapid fire. You don't have to overthink it. Just quick answers. Your favorite crop to talk about?
Hemp.
Which we got to talk about that.
We grow a lot of hemp here, so.
Yeah. And before I go into the other ones, let's talk about that a little bit. Educate our viewers and listeners on that.
I would love to say that I like talking about hemp because it's like a really easy crop to grow and it's really whatever. It is the biggest pain in the butt crop to grow, and it is our number one crop that we grow here and we have done on our farm for many years. At one point, acreage wise, we were one of the largest organic producers of hemp in Canada. I don't know if that's still standing. And I asked my husband beforehand, I was like, is that still it? He was like, I have no idea. But we grow a lot of hemp here, and we grow for seed. So when you're eating hemp hearts from the grocery store, that's what we're growing here. So food grade hemp. It is a crop that grows like a weed, kind of looks like a weed, and smells like it, all of the things. It is an interesting crop. It's fascinating. It loves our conditions here. It likes to be hot, but it also likes to have water. I will say that harvest time is a stressful time.
Is it?
Yeah, if you've ever felt a hemp plant or been around it, the fibers on it are so thick and they don't break down very easily. So it is very easy to get lodged in equipment. It is very easy to start set equipment on fire with all of the dust and all of the things that come off of it. So it's high stress times, but it is a very neat and interesting crop to grow.
It really is an interesting crop. And just like you've been talking about it, I think for people who don't understand that, so the conditions there, they need to be hot. Obviously, it wants a lot of water. What's the ground like? I mean, does the soil matter or what? I mean, are you guys on hills? Is it flat where you guys are?
Yeah. So where we are, I'm in southern Alberta. So it is semi-desert climate.
Okay.
We do have foothills and coulees around us, but our farm itself, pretty flat. We have one field that has a hill on it, and I am sweating every time I am on that hill because I'm not used to hill farming.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're prairie down here in southern Alberta.
Okay, interesting. Okay, back to our Fast 5. Thank you for the hemp education because, again, that's part of the story. And Jenna was adamant. She's like, make sure you guys talk about that. And so I'm glad you brought that up. Coffee order during when you're editing, like a marathon of editing. What's your coffee to go order?
Just black coffee, black drip coffee.
Just good black drip coffee.
Yeah.
Go to a feel good podcast.
That's gonna be hard. The Just Grow Something podcast from my friend Karen. It's a gardening podcast, and I love listening and learning about gardening. I myself am not a great gardener. It wasn't something I ever came here to say, I'm going to grow a garden. But yeah, I love listening to it and learning from her. She's got a lot of good information. So yeah, Just Grow Something.
Just Grow Something. It's a great name for a podcast too.
It is.
Best farm purchase under $100.
A post pounder.
Okay.
When I first got my goats, my husband said, if you're going to have animals, you got to take care of them and you got to do what you got to do. So I was putting up my first fence, and I used a truck bed. I used a hammer, and I was adamant that this was like the hardest job ever. And then my husband was like, why don't you use a post pounder? And I said to him, what is a post pounder? So I had no idea.
Like, huh.
Yeah. So that was really useful.
I think that's great. And last one is, if people take anything away from your role and your voice in agriculture and they could describe it to someone, how would you want them to describe it?
I think when I look at what I do and what I'm passionate about is I'm a storyteller, and I truly believe in our stories and the power that we have in them. Whether you think that it's just ordinary, whether you think you have nothing interesting to say, hold my beer, I'll get it out of you, right? Like you have something to say and it's worthy of sharing. So I think that's what I want to be left being known as, is I'm the storyteller and I'm the connector of people's stories. And it's a really cool job.
Yeah, most definitely. Okay. I know we are out of time. I can't believe it already. But our final thing that we like to do on Dirt Diaries, it's kind of cool just because at one point we all had a diary or a journal, or we always hope to maybe write in a diary or journal. So if you were to write something in your diary that your future self could read, what would you want it to say?
I would want it to say, do it scared. You can push through it. You will learn from your flops, and you will come out on the other side stronger than you ever thought you could be.
There you go. Right there. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to join me on Dirt Diaries today. If people want to go listen to your podcast or find you on social platforms, where can they do that?
You can find me on all social platforms under my handle. My personal one is Katelyn Duban, at Katelyn Duban, or the Rural Woman Podcast. And the Rural Woman Podcast is available for streaming wherever you listen to podcasts. We're on YouTube. We're all over the place. And thank you so much for doing what you do and sharing our stories. As you know, it's super important and truly great to chat with you today.
Yeah, most definitely. Well, thank you. We'll see you next time.
Thank you so much, Kirby.
Bye. That's it for today's episode of Dirt Diaries, where the women of ag leave no story untold. If you loved what you heard, be sure to subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with someone else. Until next time, keep showing up, speaking out, and getting your hands dirty.